Therefore, we can picture this as if it were a mirror that contains all forms. So we'll make a mirror out of it with my artistic ability here. You can see that's a beautiful looking mirror. Right? Now, therefore, that contains everything from the beginningless past all the way through. It contains all possible forms. It preserves in itself the entire development which later is carried out in its transformation. You see, the interesting step in creation is that from this aspect of eternity, it must move into time, for time allows it to unfold. So as it enters into the realm of time, it unfolds. What was before, you might use the term and say, what before lied potentially within it. Therefore, time, of course, then is nothing other than a moving image of eternity, right? That's all it is, right? Moving image of eternity. Now, that's called the Alaya Vijnana. All right? Now, Vijnana, of course, jnana means a way of knowing. Vijnana is the five senses. So therefore, if you could look directly into this, what you would see then would be in itself all the memory from the beginningless past and into the future. It preserves it there, and as such it's ready for evolution. It's like an ocean without waves, but everything is there. It never acts, just perceives. In such a case, what is known and knowing is one. Now, there is something now that emerges. Let me get a marker. Now, there's another principle that develops beyond the Alaya Vijnana, and that's manas. Now, that's a principle of individuation. What we can call, right, you have here, now we're in man, you have manas. That allows you to intellectually perceive things, right? It can discriminate. Now, in seeing the entirety, this would be, in Hindu terms, when Arjuna has the divine vision in Book 11 in the Gita, Arjuna asks Krishna, he says, Krishna, show me your form, show me your splendid form. So Krishna says, okay, I'll show you. And what he does is just unfolds what lies here potentially in time. And that goes through a terrifying experience as it goes on and on and on until finally Arjuna says, I've seen it. Because if you were to see this in a brief period of time, you would then see the whole creation of universes come into existence, pass out of existence, different species, rising and falls, civilizations, rising, being engulfed in flames and passing out into non-existence. You would see a fury, if you could see it all in such a brief span of time. That's Arjuna's vision. And finally he says to Krishna, hey, look, I've had enough, please hold back, return to your everyday form, and he does that. That is, you see, being able to see, discriminate this, the Alaya Vijnana, through the manas, or the intellect. That's what it is. See? And in that way, then you can react to it just like Arjuna did. And he's affected by it, passions, desires, fears, he struggles with it. But through that manas, there are two things that are primary. And that is, you see, there's a struggle for existence in that and supremacy. So therefore, when we then catch in any way a glimpse of this from our figure here, within the intellect we have some principle within us as human beings, and that is the struggle for supremacy, and equally the struggle to grasp existence. So that comes together. The struggle for existence, and not just mere existence as survival, but for some kind of supremacy. Now, this idea of supremacy lies at the heart of the Lankavatara Sutra, because that means then within us we want to aspire for something that is terribly profound. And while we can have other kinds of goals, within this Alya Vijnana, which is, as we were talking a moment ago, that's somewhat like the idea in the mind of God at the moment of creation or preceding creation. Therefore, within it must therefore be all the stages possible for man's development. And therefore, among those stages, there must be certain kind of earthly struggles, but then there must be the particular stages of development that in Buddhism are called the stages of the Bodhisattva, right, which is the far-seeing one. Bodhisattva, sattva, of course, is what is. Bodhi is mind. Therefore, a bodhisattva is someone then who can grasp the nature of being with the mind. He can then grasp what is. And they are stages until there is a complete and pure perfect enlightenment, which of course is historically said to be the Gautama Buddha. Now, once that manas is stirred up, right, and you have a struggle for existence and supremacy, that awakens the five senses. That awakens the five senses, and therefore the five senses come into existence, because what you are doing is nothing other than, in the realm of time, struggling to achieve an experience which is nothing other than the idea is the mind of God. Putting it again in Platonic terms just to talk about it. Right? Now, there is one other thing that's very curious. The manas functions with what is called the manavijnana, which is a particular faculty. They're joined together. They work. And this is the intellectual, you might say, the intellectual discriminations necessary for dealing with the phenomenal world. So, in Western philosophy, this is very much akin to Kant's categories. That is to say, within the structure of the mind, there are categories which allow us to integrate much of our experience, because it passes through the basic categories that are needed for the formation of thought, and therefore it allows us to engage actively the world of appearances. Now, therefore, let's go back. What is it now? We have this person, hypothetical person, who grasps